All right, let's talk about that hidden force that's just draining your energy, killing your focus. We're gonna go deep into the neurobiology of why you feel so completely burned out. And here's the kicker. The fix isn't about adding more systems, it's about taking them away. Let's get into it.
And this quote, this right here is the central paradox, isn't it? I mean, you've been told your whole life that with the right calendar, the right app, the perfect system, you can finally get on top of everything. But what if that's the big lie? What if the very act of trying to manage all your complexity is the single biggest source of your stress? Seriously, just think about that for a second. We've all fallen into what I call the optimization trap. You know the feeling, right? We believe that if we can just find a better way to organize our 500 unread emails and our 50 weekly commitments, we'll finally find peace. But here's the tough truth. You can't out-organize a life that is fundamentally too complex. You don't need to manage the mess. You need to eliminate its source.
So here's our game plan for reclaiming your focus. We're gonna dismantle the optimization trap, dive into the science of burnout, and then I'm gonna give you the Pareto pruning protocol. After that, we'll look at the neuroscience behind it, execute your kill list, and wrap up with the minimalist edge. Let's go.
Okay, first things first. Let's start with a foundational truth. And it might sting a little. Your attempts to organize are probably making you more stressed. Yeah, we've been sold this myth that more control and better systems are the answer. But the science of your brain says something completely different. So this gets right down to something called cognitive load theory. See, your brain, it doesn't really differentiate between that massive career-defining project and that tiny nagging maybe on your to-do list. If a task is incomplete, your brain sees it as an open loop, and it holds that loop in your active working memory, just constantly consuming your mental energy. It is exactly like having dozens of apps running in the background on your phone, silently draining the battery. You don't notice any single one, right? But by the end of the day, you're at 1% and you have no idea why.
And this quote just nails it. This is the result. Every single one of those open loops, it's a piece of luggage. And you think you're being productive by organizing them, color-coding them, repacking them to a neat little suitcase, but what you're actually doing is redlining your engine, trying to sprint a marathon while carrying an impossibly heavy load of things that aren't even moving you forward.
Okay, so let's get into the science of what's actually happening in your body. Because this isn't just a feeling of being overwhelmed. No, this is a measurable biological state. That constant background anxiety that so many of us live with, it has a very precise scientific explanation.
You ever wonder why you can forget a task the second you finish it, but that one thing you haven't even started just haunts you all day? Well, there's a name for that. It's called the Zeigarnik effect. Your brain is literally hardwired to obsess over those open loops. And look, it's not a flaw. It's an old evolutionary feature designed to make sure we finish what we start. The problem is, in our modern world of infinite tasks, it just creates this state of perpetual low-grade mental nagging.
And all that nagging leads to something called allostatic load. Just think of it like this. It's the debt your body accumulates from being under chronic stress. And get this, it's not caused by your big, important projects. It's the result of the thousands of micro decisions and tiny variables you're tracking every single day. That 3 p.m. mental fog, that heavy, sinking feeling of dread when you look at your phone, that's not a lack of discipline. It's systemic neural exhaustion. It is the biological cost of tracking way too much noise.
So here's the biological bottom line. When you have too many variables to track, your amygdala, that's your brain's ancient threat detection center, it just stays in this state of persistent low-grade alert. It literally cannot tell the difference between a tiger hiding in the grass and a calendar that's packed with conflicting appointments. To your brain, overwhelming complexity just feels like danger, period. I love this metaphor because it's so perfect for what's happening. Imagine you are a high-performance jet. You have the capacity for incredible speed, for high-altitude performance, but your cognitive airspace is saturated with thousands of tiny, low-value tasks and decisions, and each one is a pigeon that you have to dodge, constantly draining your fuel, destroying your momentum, and making it absolutely impossible to ever reach your true cruising altitude. That right there is complexity burnout. Okay, so that's the problem. And the issue here isn't your work ethic, it's your entire operational framework. So how do we fix it? We don't organize, we delete. We're going to install a brand new operating system for your life. It's called the Pareto Pruning Protocol.
This protocol has 3 core steps, and you should really think of this as the RAM upgrade for your mind. We're not just moving files around here. We are force quitting all those background apps that are slowing your entire system down to a crawl. The 3 steps are the metabolic inventory, the hard deletion mandate, and decision-free automation.
All right, let's start with step 1. This is a profound mindset shift. We've been conditioned our whole lives to ask if a commitment is useful or if it has potential. The metabolic inventory forces you to ask a much more brutal question. What is the cognitive cost? What is the mental energy tax that this commitment charges on me every single day I have to track it? And if that cost is higher than the reward, it's gone, period.
Which brings us to step 2, the hard deletion mandate. This is nothing less than the ruthless application of the 80-20 principle to your entire life. Your mission is simple. Identify the 20% of your commitments that are generating 80% of your stress. And you don't delegate them, you don't reschedule them, you eliminate them. You stop trying to manage the mess and you destroy its source.
And the final step? Decision-free automation. Look, your brain runs on glucose, and every single decision you make, no matter how small, it consumes that precious fuel. So you have to protect that fuel source like a hawk. You habituate the low-stakes parts of your life. You meal prep, you wear a self-imposed uniform like Steve Jobs did. You set fixed windows for checking email. The goal here is to move from trying to remember everything to a life where you have almost nothing you need to remember.
Okay, so now let's explore why this protocol is so incredibly powerful. Because it's not just about feeling better. It's about literally re-architecting your brain for peak performance. The neuroscience actually shows us how simplification builds a fundamentally better brain. So check this out. There's a direct biological trade-off happening in your head. A complex life keeps your anterior cingulate cortex, or ACC, constantly firing. That's your brain's conflict detector. And that creates a chronic drip of the stress hormone cortisol. But when you simplify, you quiet down that ACC and you activate the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the DLPFC, which is your brain's focus center. So instead of cortisol, you get a surge of acetylcholine, the key neurotransmitter for focus. You literally stop wasting energy on stress and you preserve it for deep, meaningful work. And you know what? There's a huge psychological payoff too. Every time you delete a low-value task, you trigger something called the winner effect. Your brain actually logs that decision as a win. And that reinforces the idea that your time is valuable, that your focus is sacred. And this makes it 100 times easier to say no to the next distraction that comes along. You stop being a victim of your calendar, and you start becoming the architect of what truly matters. Look, theory is powerful, but action is what creates change. So let's get practical. It's time to execute your kill list, and we're starting today, right now. This is where you take back control. I want this to be your new mantra. The goal is not a cleaner desk. It's not a more color-coded calendar. The goal is an empty desk and a calendar with vast, beautiful white space. The ultimate productivity hack isn't adding a new system, it's subtracting a commitment. So let's take action right now. We're going to do a quick metabolic audit together. First, what are your 3 most vital tasks for today? I'm not talking about the urgent ones, not the loud ones. I mean the vital ones. The tasks that, if you get them done, will make today a win, no matter what else happens. Got them? Write them down. Everything else is just a distraction. Okay, second, identify one recurring task that just drains you and kill it forever. Seriously, look at your calendar. Is there a weekly meeting that could be an email? A subscription you never use? A social thing you absolutely dread? Find it, and then ceremoniously delete it. And third, create a decision-free morning for tomorrow. Tonight, before you go to sleep, lay out your clothes, pack your bag, decide what you're having for breakfast. Eliminate every minor choice from the start of your day, so you wake up with a full tank of cognitive fuel. All right, let's bring this all home. The philosophy that underpins every single thing we've talked about. We can call it the minimalist edge. And it's this beautifully counterintuitive idea that true peak performance comes not from what you add, but from what you subtract. This is the end goal. Remember, stress is not a badge of honor. It's a sign of a complex, inefficient system. Real success isn't measured by how much you can handle, but by how much you can subtract while still getting the same or even better results. You can't outperform a messy life forever. Eventually, all that friction is going to grind you to a complete halt. So here it is, your final mandate. Audit your life. Find that 20% of commitments that are killing your energy and stealing your focus. And then
delete 1. Not tomorrow, right now. Master the art of subtraction, and I promise you, your focus will become an absolutely unstoppable force.